Today on DNVR Buffs Live, we've got our guy, Uncle Neely, joining the show to tell us what to expect from Coach Prime's second fall camp at Colorado starting in just a few days. Let's dive right in.
Buff Nation.
Let's go. Is he there? Wait.
Oh.
There he is.
He's there physically.
Hey, you know what? I did the U and not the hot tour, but I was muted.
It was Alyssa was muting you on purpose because she didn't want to hear it.
Hey, great job, Alyssa. I don't want to hear me sometimes either.
Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. It's the DNVR pregame show. The man is back. The myth, the legend, Uncle Neely. You're going to be back in Colorado very, very soon. So how are you spending your last few days in Jackson, man?
I really should be packing, but what I've been doing instead of packing is playing this damn PS5 college football.
Let's go.
Jake, when we were just texting about 10 minutes ago, the reason I was asking about the time is Shador got drafted first round. And, I didn't go out there in the Portland thing. I moved Staub up, and Staub just threw 2 touchdowns against Georgia Tech.
Let's go. I started my first games of next season too last night. I got Vinny touchdowns out there, slinging it around. We went to a freshman, like the Buffs may do next year. Highly ranked freshman came in and started for us at quarterback.
You got to love it, man. This game is everything and then some. I got to figure out this kicking, though. This kicking is horrible.
Bro, I think I kicked a ball backwards last night. That's how badly I missed it. You ever see when someone's like taking a practice swing on the tee and they accidentally hit the very side of the ball and it shoots like straight across? That's what I did with Feely last night. Tried to line up for like a 54-yarder, man. That thing went to the stands at midfield.
I have been sharing clips and tagging the players in them, and I got a DM from Mate. From Mark Versett, and he said, man, when am I going to see some punt highlights? You're never going to see them until I figure this out. Your punting is horrible on this game. I don't know what to do.
Bro, I think they just did him dirty, or I don't know how to punt yet, because I'm hitting 33-yard punts with Mate every time I have to.
Oh, on my dynasty, my punter is terrible.
Yeah, I think the punters were nerfed for some reason.
It's worked in the advantage. Sorry, Uncle.
I told Mate the same thing. I said, man, I don't know if they just screwed you over or I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I just can't punt. I can't kick field goals. Mata sucks for me. It's just been, pause. I just get to where we're score for whatever. I just go for it.
Oh, man, this thing is so fun. I'm having a lot of fun playing online, too. I know Buffton Prime's in the chat. He wants to play. We're going to play tonight. Allie's not going to be at home tonight. So last night was a 5-hour stream. Tonight might be a 6-hour stream.
Let's go, man. All right. Let's get into it. Let's talk about camp. Second one for Coach Prime here at Colorado. Lots of things to get into, Unc, and we'll get into most of the positions and the new guys and all that. But what are you looking forward to the most as we enter year 2 under Coach Prime at Colorado?
Well, starting at the top with Coach Prime, there's not going to be any excuses. Coach Prime has a standard and it's pretty high, but he also understands not to expect himself from other people. And so you saw last year as we were transitioning and he was getting his organization in place, there may be some things where he allowed a little gray area because you're trying to instill and teach your culture. That won't be the case this year. The standard is certainly going to be the standard and the expectations of what they are. Having said that, the new guys who have come in, the swagger that they have approached this thing with from the spring semester to summer 1 and 2 and workout, I just expect them to, once again, you not be able to tell the new guys from the old guys as far as last year's team because of the bravado, the swagger, the belief, the mission, the wanting to get Miss Peggy to a bowl game. These guys are going to hit that practice field Monday like they never have before because the excitement is just that high.
I love it, man. I'm kind of curious just about like the structure of things and how it works. The way that kind of Coach Prime conducts a fall camp. I guess we'll start from the broad sense of like, where do they start and how does it kind of ramp up for them as they go through?
Well, this first week when you get back, there's still some degree of strength and conditioning built into it because you just came off a little small break, and so you're going to have that still being a priority. But by the time you get to day 3 or 4, it's going into install mode, and after that you got pads on. Everything is North Dakota State based, North Dakota State based, excuse me. And so you're going to see less and less of strength and conditioning guys and more of the coaching as far as the OC and DC, the position coaches. And then this year, going into this fall camp, the graduate assistants are allowed to do more. So you're going to see a lot of hands-on things taking place because after you get that first little orientation, getting your legs back under you, which the NCAA, promotes to make sure people are ready to practice in pads. Once that part is over, everything is about the week 1 opponent.
And like in a given practice, from my days covering the NFL, like the media gets to watch every practice of camp. And so there's a lot of discussion that goes on about how each coach conducts a practice. I remember, I think it was, I could be mixing this up, but I think it was Nathaniel Hackett, didn't like to do a ton of 11 on 11. Some coaches like to primarily focus 11 on 11. Some like to move the ball. Some like more situational. Vic Fangio didn't allow the Broncos to have music at practice. What does a Coach Prime practice look like from that perspective?
It takes a pretty bad day for it not to be in music. So there's going to be music because he likes to bounce around to it and get the juice going. But it's a mixture of everything you just touched on there. Because Coach Prime has a script, but he has part of that script where it's called Prime Moments, where he just throws anything. Like it could be a do-over. It could be just a total stoppage of practice. It could be some strength and conditioning. It's to get guys ready for adversity because you don't know when it's going to come. So he does have those moments in practice where he just throws the kitchen sink at you. But you'll see for the most part, the ones versus the twos, no matter what those units are. And then the bigs, the trenches will go down to one end of the field and get their one-on-one work together while a 7-on-7 portion is going. But you do ramp up to where you got that full 11 on 11, which is ones versus twos. But again, that'll be after those first couple of days of conditioning when you're getting ready to go into the installs.
I just love talking about this stuff. I know a little bit of this from last year, but it's just getting even just thinking about what drills they're gonna run gets me fired up right now.
Unc, you mentioned installs. I don't know if it's fair to ask you to put a percentage on it, but just from what you saw since you're in the meetings and all that in the spring. How installed are they with the new defense, new offense? How much more installation is going to be left over these next few weeks?
That's a great question. I think I'll know more of that these first few days because you're going to have a refresher. It's been a long time since you were out there just truly doing it, like literally the spring game. You've had some player-led practices this summer, but there's nothing like, practices with the coaches, instructing and barking at you and that kind of thing. So I think there's going to be a gray area where the guys got to get back up to speed. But the terminology, the stuff they've been doing on their own, they should still be way ahead of the curve this year than they were last year. Last year about this time, right now we're about 4 weeks away from the first game, Jake. Last year about this time, we were about 10 weeks away preparation-wise from the first game. So I think we're on schedule to slightly ahead of schedule as being prepared from a terminology, execution, and installment standpoint. But when you have this installment package, it's generic. It's everything that you do. That's going to start to get drilled down to literally stopping what does North Dakota State do well. So you reach this portion in the first 7 days or so where it just shifts to this ain't practice. This is getting ready for week 1.
It's really interesting because last year, obviously, they opened against TCU, and that's a game where they're 24-point favorites or dogs, and we knew that at this point, of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure also going back to Jackson State days, their season opener was usually a very big game, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was not only a conference game, it was a division game. You opened up in the SWAC East against FAMU, and frankly, those past 2 years when Coach Prime was at Jackson State, The winner of that game went on to win the conference, and the loser of it was out of it because math-wise you couldn't catch up. You would need the winner of the game to lose two more, and you had to win out. We thankfully we're not opening up against a conference opponent week one, but it is a game that you have to set the standard for because much like it was against TCU where you were the heavy underdog, now you're a favorite, and you really got to go out there and just show and prove because one thing's going to happen with that game, fellas. We win big, they're going to say, "Oh, you're supposed to." If it's a nail biter, they're going to say, "Look, you're not everything you thought you were because look how close you played that team." I think from a preparation standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, there's going to be more intensity for this week one than there was for TCU just because of all the stakes that it means that we have to set the tone, right and go out and play big because no one is watching that night but us. We're the only thing on that time. And we got to start the season off right, and going in there with a big win and putting up some points shows this offense and this defense to be ready.
It's also a mindset thing, right? Like I remember watching the season 1 or season 2, I guess, of the Coach Prime doc at Jackson, and like he preached so much about dominate, and obviously that's still a big part of his lexicon last year. But the team, as we saw, wasn't cut out to dominate in the way that that Coach Prime would like. This is a great chance in that game. I'm not saying you overlook, but to take that dominate mindset into it. You are the favorites. It's different from last year where it's us, kind of us against the world. No one believes in us. Like that might still be true of the team at large, but in that game, everyone has expectations for you, and that wasn't the same as last year.
RK, I got to give it to you, brother. You not only just have a magnificent haircut, you actually got a brain under that haircut. I love the way you think and break this stuff down because you are spot on. At Jackson State, Coach Prime was trying to get these guys into the NFL, and he knew coming from the SWAC, coming from an HBCU, the only way that was going to happen is you had to have dominant performances. You had to have big wins, not just win the game, but win big and send a message that you could compete at that next level. Well, here he is with some of those same players at that next level, and you're opening up against an opponent that on paper, at least, you're playing down a rank. But he's not going to just settle for that. Like, you have to go out there, and this has to be one of the biggest games of the season because it's supposed to be. And because it's supposed to be, that means not only you're supposed to do it, you got to exceed the expectations of it. Now, the reality of it against that, Jake, is that this ain't a slouch. Everybody's looking at North Dakota State as if there's some just, extreme underdog and it's going to be 100-0. They're at the very top of the level that they play. And we're coming from the very bottom of the level that we play as you look at the past years. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. This is going to be one the coaches are not going to take for granted. And you're right on it, RK. Dominance is going to be preached, from this first practice till it's time to kick off for that game.
I mean, we've kind of talked about it too, and you mentioned it. It's like having this game first almost, I think, alleviates some of the stress of playing North Dakota State as opposed to, say you opened up against CSU and then you played Nebraska and then it was North Dakota State.
Or it's in between the two.
Right, for sure, where it could actually act as a trap game. You have no choice but to focus on this team.
100%. And, we've talked about this a lot on the show, but a defining moment of last fall camp for me was when we were talking to Shador away from the cameras, and he essentially just said, like, I've had too much time to prepare for TCU. Like, I know everything that they want to do. I'm completely and utterly dialed in to how TCU wants to approach this game, and I don't know if he quite said it, but it was essentially like, there's no way they can stop me. And he was right. He threw for 500 yards. Mm-hmm. So I know Shador will take that same level of seriousness into this because it's that same thing where he has unlimited prep time for this game, unlike any other game on the schedule. And so that's what really alleviates my concern when it comes to a trap game or overlooking them. It's the combination of Coach Prime won't let it happen, and they have all of this time to think about it, rather than, okay, we got CSU, then we have, we can take our foot off the pedal a little bit, then Nebraska or something like that. It's like, no, pedal to the metal from day one, snap one.
Yep. All right, let's take a real quick, Neely. What do you got?
I was just going to say I love that, man. You saw the same thing happen with Shador Sanders at Jackson State. He did not have that that quote unquote full preparation his first true freshman season when he played FAMU. So that was a nail biter. But when he had that time to prepare, like you're discussing, he said it at SWAC Media Day. Then they gave me too much time, man. I got this, and I think it was 56-10 or something.
Yep.
All right, we'll get back to Unk and ask him about all the new guys on the roster and a bunch more camp stuff here shortly. But first, a word from our friends over at Mint Mobile. Switching and shopping wireless providers can be a hassle. Sometimes you sign that new contract, you get your new phone, and then all of a sudden you get slammed with those hidden fees a few months after you sign up. Our friends at Mint Mobile have you covered. We've got people in the chat who love Mint Mobile as well. When you can sign up today, if you go to the link mintmobile.com/buffs and get a new wireless plan for $15 a month. You need to be a new customer to cash in on this 3-month wireless plan. Again, mintmobile.com/buffs. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. Quick disclaimer here says $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
You need your reading glasses or something?
There's a lot going on with this one.
Also, shout out to Game Time. It feels right that we have Unk on today and we're talking Game Time.
Yep.
Big weekend, big couple days here in Denver. You got a Kenny Chesney concert on Saturday.
Can't wait.
Olivia Rodrigo's coming to town on Tuesday.
I'm so hyped.
So, a lot of big shows, a lot of big concerts going on out there. And you got to use Game Time if you want the cheapest tickets, especially if you want to wait till the last minute. I told the story of last time I was at one of these concerts. There's a girl trying to get a ticket, like sitting on a bench next to me. I'm like, have you downloaded Game Time? She's like, no. I'm like, all right, well, here you go. Here's a code for $20 off your first purchase. She was hype and she got the best deal. So check out our friends over at Game Time and use the code BUFFS, BUFFS, for $20 off your first purchase.
All right. We got a few new players, as you said. They've already kind of assimilated into the team, and it seems pretty seamless compared to what we saw last offseason. Let's start on the offensive line because we focused a lot on – they're going to be the focus, really, of camp of this entire season. What have you seen for them, becoming a full unit, not just 5 individual guys on the offensive line, but one offensive line, and especially the new guys, Khalil and Justin?
I love what I've seen. This offensive line room, from the position coach down to the last player in there, is exponentially better this time than we were last year. The way they communicate, the way they navigate, the way they work together, particularly the way they hold each other accountable. Last year this time you had one player in Tyler Brown and Rock, trying to hold everybody accountable and make sure we had a standard, and he wasn't even going to be able to play. So it just got to a point where, hey, it's easy for you to say that you're standing over to the side. This year, the leadership in that room, man, you can just kind of draw straws. And at any given moment, you got Khalil Benson or you got Justin Mayer or you got Tyler Brown challenging somebody. And the way the other guys respond to the challenge versus folding and sulking off or arguing has just been a beautiful thing to see. But more than anything, what I like this year, Jake, from this offensive line is that the ability to interchange pieces and rotate, whether that is for fatigue or nick or bruise, not having a good game, matchups, whatever you want to count it as. This offensive line is built for a 17-game season. Our last year offensive line was built for just one game at a time, and we'll see what we had. We got the depth, we got the talent that these guys are all going to see their moments and have their opportunity. You will have a core group that's known as the ones, but you're going to end up with 2s and even 3s across the season getting just as much playing time before the season is over.
Well, with that, what can you tell us about Tyler Johnson? Because he was one of the first guys to commit to Colorado out of the portal in the winter. He was very highly touted coming out of Houston, but we didn't really hear his name too much during the spring. What can you share with us?
Yeah, it's just, during that spring, man, it's just hard to really stand out, because it's such a strength and conditioning thing. I'm really looking forward to this pad portion. And when you really get to see who wants to be there when that clacking is going on, I think Tyler has a tremendous upside. I think that, again, people think this is recruit talk, but I really mean it. Coach Prime doesn't bring in a guy that he doesn't need and want right now. So he's not bringing in people just to put them on the shelf for a just in case kind of thing. If you're on the team, he needs and wants you to participate on the team. So this line is going to have some plug and play components to it, some mixing and matching, and Tyler would be one of those guys.
Okay, so as of right now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it feels like the offensive line is Jordan Seaton, Tyler Brown, Hank Zelinskis, Justin Mayers, Khalil Benson. Is that right?
I would agree with that.
Which of those 5 positions do you believe is in the most competition? Meaning, which of those guys, who do you think could be in a competition for their job the most?
Wow, man, deep question, because I want to change the narrative a little bit on it. I don't want to say their job. I'm going to say just some playing time. I believe in Jordan Seaton. I believe in everything that he is. And in fact, I've told you guys personally and on the air, if anything, he is understated. People are not giving him the credit for what he really is capable of and brings to the table. Having said that, he is still a freshman. And if college football goes the way college football typically goes, I would say that the freshman would be the guy because of some freshman mistakes or moments that you're going to see interchanged out here and there. But that's also augmented now. He's got Tyler Brown next to him and is here whispering and helping out. So that might not pan out. But if you just had me to pick a guy, I'm going to just have to pick on the freshman because of college playing experience.
I like that answer.
This might be a better question for Pat Shurmur or Coach Prime, but this time last year, all we heard about was the pace of the offense, right? Everything was fast. They call the play fast. They get to the line fast. They play fast. What is that going to look like this year for this team? I mean, are they going to try and push the pace as much as they can again? Obviously, it came back to bite them a bit last year, but it seemed like Shurmur really tried to slow it down in that last month last year, too. What's the pace going to look like?
Yeah, I think the pace is going to be week to week, Jake. I think this team, Coach Mo Sims and his staff has gotten them in the kind of shape that they can play whichever way is needed. But I think Coach Shurmur is going to move the ball based on what that defense matchup is providing for us. Last year, I think we were just too stubborn. We wanted to have a fast pace for the sake of having a fast pace and saying we were fast paced. But when you had an athlete out there that couldn't keep up with that pace, it hurt you more than it helped you. This year, I think the offense is going to be not methodical as in a boring thing, but methodical as in a thought-out process, because what you do against North Dakota State, you might not do against Nebraska or Colorado State or ever again that season. So I think what Coach Shurmur is dialing up out there is matchup-based, is game flow-based, is down and situation-based versus saying, no, you know what, I don't care what we're doing, do it fast. I don't think that approach is going to be on this team this year.
What did he end up calling the offense? Ralphie fast?
Folsom fast.
Folsom fast?
Yeah.
Bro, that's where everything went wrong. Should have just called it the Stampede offense.
Yeah.
That would have been fire. I tried to tell him, too.
You did?
Well,
man, you tried to drop Stampede. You tried to drop Dime Time. I think this is the season that one of your names sticks. So you just keep plugging away.
I think so. I mean, we've got Spider-Man for Nikhil Webb-Walker because he walks on webs.
Sammy Sachs.
Sammy Sachs. Yeah, that's caught on in my Twitch chat at least. Something's going to hit this year.
I love it.
It's like making 8-game parlays. Eventually, one of them will hit.
And when it does, it makes up for all the previous losses when it did.
Exactly.
I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball, Unc. We kind of ranked, the camp battles yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And one that came up was that I thought was pretty intriguing was the edge rusher position. It seems like we're like 5 to 6 deep there, and any one of those guys could start on any given week. I guess my question for you is, I don't want to ask you to predict the starters, but is it BJ Green and like Dayon Hayes? Do you think they'll just go with the older guys, or do you think that Ataje McCoy, Arden Walker, some of these younger players, Samuel Okunlola, could take that starting job for week 1?
I love it. I love the way you frame that as well. I'm going to go with the older guys just on the experience tip. But let me also say that, Taj is a hard worker. I would not be surprised if he gets in that mix. And don't discount or forget about guys like Jeremiah Brown, who've bounced all around this defense, played everything except cornerback, in the past year. So he's making some noise and had an excellent spring game. So I expect him to challenge as well. But I think if I'm going with BJ Green, it's his speed off the ball, his experience, his leadership, his demeanor. It's going to be hard to bump that guy out. But I think this is going to be much like the running back room in the offensive line. You're going to see different mixes out there and seeing some guys running on the field and getting another guy off just because of the prevailing matchup or substitution works in our favor. But I like your first two names just off experience and what they bring to the table alone. I think those are the front runners right now.
Matt H. had a really interesting tweet yesterday talking about the sophomore class. And this is sophomores and or redshirt sophomores. But I just want to list these guys off and then ask you, out of all these guys, who do you think is most primed to break out? Carter Stoutmire, Savion Riley, DJ McKinney, Samuel Okunlola, Quincy Wiggins, Hank Salinskis, Omarion Miller, Dallin Hayden, Isaiah Augustave, Walter Taylor, Destin Wade. Out of those guys, who are you most excited about?
I'm going to go with two because I really want to see Carter Stoutmire healthy and what he does and adds to this team. But then give me, you said Okunola, give me him.
Nice. I mean, this is just such an interesting exercise to look at this team class by class because it's been built so differently from everything else, and you just don't think about the fact that like these guys are sophomores. It's essentially like this is their second year and they were freshmen last year. Like, I mean, you name the names that I listed off there are a lot of guys who are going to be big time contributors. Stoutmire, McKinney, Okunlola, Wiggins, Zelinskis, Omarion Miller, Dallin Hayden. You know, that's a big part of this team's core. Mm-hmm. Just when I read that tweet, I was like, man, that's exciting that you have that much young talent.
I agree with that, and that's the part I focus on is we got a good problem. You know, we're opening up the toolkit, and there's 20 wrenches to choose from versus last year there was a rubber mallet and maybe a file, and it was a fingernail file. So you got the kind of depth now, you know, that you need, and you can just choose based on matchups. I love it. I love it, man. I just love where we are defensively, particularly mixed in with Coach Livingston's best 11 concept. Putting the guys out there that are best 11 for this moment or for this game, with the understanding that 3 weeks from now the defense could look totally different. I'm just personally excited to see, you know, what Carter can add depth-wise and impact-wise, because I think the arrow is absolutely pointing up on him until the injury. And if he's back and fully recovered from that, I think he's going to make some noise.
I couldn't agree more about Carter, honestly.
Yeah. His shoulders are insane.
Yeah, and that's what was hurt last year too.
Yeah,
it was a shoulder. But a lot of people were unnecessarily hard on him as a true freshman and trying to come back and play with that injury, because he did try to battle through it and play later in the season before he shut it down. And I think a lot of people saw that and just saw like a finished player when it's like, no, he's extremely young and he was hurt.
Yeah, and then he had like a heated conversation with Coach Prime on the sidelines that people got really
about that, man.
People did. A lot of people did. I'm just
ridiculous.
saying. I'm talking about, you know, the reason why I think people were hard on him.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, this is not a comparison. But like you saw Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, or Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels would be yelling at each other on the sidelines. Like, you're in an incredibly heated moment while you're playing a football game. All of your emotions, all of your adrenaline, all of your testosterone is running at like the highest possible level. So things like that happen.
Well, Coach and Omar obviously go back, and they were hanging
literally
out.
Fishing last week.
Yeah, Coach and Carter have a deep relationship that go back. They're going to talk to each other differently than people would expect, I think.
Yeah, and that's not to say, you know, maybe there was a talking to that happened afterwards that, hey, you know, don't do that.
Right.
But it's not one of those things where I think he needs to be blacklisted or anything like that. Speaking of the way that this roster...
We got to take a break.
Okay. Let me tease what I'm going to say, and then you can take your break, Jake. Speaking of the way this roster was built, there have been two very interesting comments that have surfaced today from around the country that I want to talk about after this break.
Shout out to our friends over at True Fan Travel. They were the ones that helped us out and put everything together for TCU. It was an amazing trip. We got to hang out with a bunch of y'all at the team or at the hotel. Of course, at the tailgate before, and just a great weekend all around. We are doing it again this year, though. Heading over to Lincoln, Nebraska for the Week 2 battle against the dreaded Cornhuskers. The Broncos are going to Tampa. Are you going to Tampa too? No. Damn. Well, you can head on over to Tampa.
We'll have a game that week.
We do have a game that week.
Yeah.
You can head over to Tampa with the Broncos crew or with us to Lincoln. Head on over to truefantravel.com/trips to book your spot today. Be on the lookout for more road trips brought to you by True Fan Travel. Sign-ups for these road trips are live while spots last.
Also, shout out to Bet365. Dang, I just realized I forgot to get my bets in on this golf tournament this weekend. Bummer. Anyways, you should bet on things over at Bet365. Speaking of betting, Team Colorado, TBT, another huge win. 3 straight upset wins for them.
And back-to-back Kansas, right?
Back-to-back Kansas. Kansas State, Wichita, Kansas. They swept the entire state. We own the state of Kansas now, but then we decided to give it back because it's kind of worthless. Anyways, you could have bet on them and got them as an underdog in all 3 of those games. So shout out to Bet365, the best, and use the bet and get offer where you just deposit $10 and bet 5 of it and get $150 in bonus bets. Of course, you must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, just a joke about Kansas. I'm just kidding. One time I made a joke about Kansas and I got a really angry DM.
Aw. They'll be okay. What were you going to ask, Unc?
I actually like Kansas.
I wasn't going to ask anything. I've been laughing about Kansas and the way you guys roll to that commercial break. It's just been
Hey, man, I've been told we got to get to the breaks, so I don't know what you want from me.
It's
nothing.
Jake, once again, as always, it's your delivery. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
When I go upstairs and I get yelled at for having a minute, going a minute over on the ad break, then
I was just trying to set up. I was just teasing.
all right.
So all you had to do is let me finish the tease, and then you could have been like, and we'll talk about that after the break.
Okay. What was your tease?
Okay, so this one is, there's 2. This one is the best, though, and it is absolutely hilarious. Washington's Jed Fish said Huskies will have 46 new scholarship players and an entire new coaching staff and 21 of 22 new starters. Quote, that has never been done before. It's a true reboot. So is college football.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
The other one's funny.
Where were they last year?
They were the ones that were upset at Coach Prime in Colorado for kicking kids out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like when they said this has never happened before, I think it just happened like a year ago.
Unbelievable. It's never happened before, he says.
And then you have, is it Kurt Signetti?
Yeah, then you have Kurt Signetti, which I don't have a problem with him.
No.
It's just the way that people are talking about it. Like, wow, this is interesting. Yeah. Indiana coach Kurt Signetti. In this day and age in the portal, we can change things real fast. We've completely flipped the roster. Indiana brought in 30 new players through the portal this season. 6 IU players also withdrew from the portal. It's just funny watching people talk about this as like kind of normal and almost like impressive.
Coach Prime literally said that last year, and people lost their damn minds.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just ridiculous, but it is what it is. I just love Jed Fish, who was literally in the conference last year being like, yep, no one's ever done this before. I actually invented the transfer portal, and it's a whole new experiment. Well, I guess we'll see how it goes.
Your thoughts, Unc?
I have nothing to offer but laughs. That is insane.
That guy is so slimy.
He's he's a weirdo, huh?
Just gives off the slimiest vibes maybe of any coach in college football.
How long do you think he stays? Do you think he makes it like 3 years?
I don't think he's going to have the quarterback fortune that he had at Arizona, and I think he makes it 2 years at Washington.
It's going to be rough this year.
Yep.
All right. Are we going to do this top 5?
Sure. Do you have thoughts on this? Did you come prepped?
The Signetti one I just thought was funny just because we literally heard it.
No. I meant for the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course. What do you mean? This is what I've made my whole offseason about.
All right. Great. All right.
All right, Unc. We're going to rake do a top 5 of the top 5 dumbest things that got people mad about Coach Prime and the Buffs this offseason.
We'll trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
From all the ridiculous things that we've dealt with this offseason.
Starting at 1, 5.
Let's just start laying them out and then we'll rank them. The one that sticks out to most to me is the trip to France.
The fashion show.
For the fashion show.
Yes.
That one was a little bit different because it brought out all these other like things that people were mad about, like how like men shouldn't have Louis bags and things like that. So it was like this multi-layered, like, not only are we mad that it's the Sanders brothers, we're mad that they missed the optional meeting, we're mad that they're repping Louis. Like, it was just like, that one was pretty layered. That's the first one that comes to my mind. And it was just so wild watching people like get red in the face thinking about it.
I mean, the number one is Shador's concert.
Okay.
Number 2 is probably the football game, EACFB 25, because the ratings came out and people lost their shit.
I think we have very different perspectives on these. Unc, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the fashion show as number 1. That would totally be my number 1. And to frame it with the question at hand, the attack on Coach Prime for allowing 2 players to participate in the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and miss a team meeting, not workout, not practice, but just a team meeting. I think it was totally ridiculous for that to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, Shiloh said it best at Big 12 Media Days. He's like, at Colorado, we actually work for our NIL deals. Like, we actually have to do something rather than just going to the bank and cashing a check. And that was an example of one where they got an incredible NIL opportunity, and they got to go do it. How about the athletic hit piece?
I was thinking about that. That's honestly, that was the most like, I don't know, heated point of the offseason, I think. But that was what you just said. It was a hit piece, and the team just defended themselves, and then people got mad at that.
Yeah, I actually think the epicenter of that one is Shador.
Very mid at best.
Very mid at best. That actually might be number 1.
Yeah.
Because
Law Jesus is up there too.
When that's all part of it, right?
Yeah.
But the craziest thing is that everyone was acting like Shador was like a grown-ass man talking down to a kid.
Right.
When it was really just 2 kids
that's his peer.
chirping at each other.
Yes.
And that was the wildest part about that, is they're just like, how could he do this to just a kid who was on the roster? And it's like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, these are peers.
Yep.
And he didn't attack him or insult his character. He just said must have been very mid at best, barely even remember him.
Yeah. And he's right.
Yeah, so that one, I think that's actually number 1 because people truly came unglued over that one.
Yeah. What do you got, Unc?
I'm still holding with the fashion show as number 1. I do like that one. And as much as Lord Jesus was related to it, I'm counting this separately because it was Coach Prime himself, chiming in.
Yes.
Yep.
And it was like all it was a fan in the stands watching a boxing match, and somebody got hit with a vicious left hook, and they jumped up and said, Lord Jesus. It don't mean that they were for or against it, just like that was a great damn punch. And everybody act like he was the orchestrator of all this stuff. But again, just Shador example, when is someone not allowed to defend themselves? Like, I get a rebuttal, but people act like Colorado can't rebut.
And the craziest part about that one is, well, 2 crazy parts. One, everyone just started acting like Coach Prime attacked him. And it wasn't even in relation to the original player who was quoted in the Athletic article. It was related to a different player who chimed in that was going back and forth with Caleb, right?
Well, Delvin the Truth like quote tweeted his stats or something,
Yes,
and then Coach
yes.
Prime quote tweeted that, said Lord Jesus.
Yes. So that whole thing was completely taken out of context as usual. That was pretty ridiculous. This was just pointed out in the comments. In terms of how normal it was versus how people reacted, Shiloh recruiting
Yes,
and the way
that was
people
a big
lost
one.
over that might have the largest gap between like how often it happens everywhere else and how everyone acted like this was ridiculous that he was doing it.
The number one thing with that was when Luther Burden III from Mizzou tweeted like the exact same thing,
Yeah.
like
Crickets.
days later.
Crickets.
And everyone was, nothing to be said. And it was like, this is exactly what you guys got so upset about.
Unserious program, we were called for Shiloh tweeting that out.
That one's bookmarked. That's going to come back. Let's get into the list then.
Anything else we need to...
Okay, that's fine.
I'll do it in the background.
All right.
We do have to hit a break.
Well, we
here
can
now.
just rank them after the show.
Okay.
But before the break, we got to add one more in there, and that is the totally unfair criticism and attacks that Coach Prime got when anybody left. And I'm talking about specifically the running back and Kermani McClain. Like, no coach in America gets blamed for a kid transferring without someone knowing why they're actually transferring than Coach Prime did. So the attacks that he had to sustain just on somebody wanting to switch schools was unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone leaves another school, it's like, oh, he must have gotten a better NIL opportunity.
Yeah.
If anyone leaves Colorado, it's Coach Prime lost the team.
Yeah, of course. I got to go back to when the ratings came out for CFB 25, though, because that was almost like the entire nation hearing a truth that they've just been blocking out of their minds this entire offseason. And then it was put right in front of them directly. Like, Shador's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. This offense is going to be a top 10 offense. The defense has improved too, actually, if you paid attention. And EA just put it all right out there in front of everyone. No explanation, and people just lost their shit over it because they haven't been listening. They haven't been following this team. And they have no idea what kind of players they've added over this offseason. So.
100%. And I know it just kills them when I have them down 21-0 in the first quarter online.
I'm sure. There's got to be more.
I'm sure there is. I mean, people are mentioning
one is pretty recent. You know, I can add in the attack of Coach Prime when he got the $250K bonus, and people were saying, "Hey, how does a guy that wins 4 games get any kind of bonus?" As if he had made every hotel in the program millions of dollars.
Yeah, I didn't even see a reaction to that one. It's probably because I didn't specifically tweet about it.
Right. I'm sure Scott got some backfire.
Yeah,
from that.
I'm sure. All right.
All right. We'll hit our final break and then we'll get to questions here. Shout out to our friends over at BetterHelp. We are attacking the stigma on mental health on this show. Life is hard, guys. If you're going through something or you just need to get something off your chest, hit up our friends over at BetterHelp. Starting therapy can be a bit intimidating if you haven't done it before, but with our friends over at BetterHelp, it's made easy, convenient, and able to suit your schedule. All you need to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, and you'll get matched with a licensed therapist. Even then, if you don't like that therapist, you can switch anytime for no additional charge. It's entirely online. Head on over to betterhelp.com/DNVR. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. And you'll get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp, HELP.com/DNVR. And then shout out to Chinook Seedery.
Yeah. Big shout out to Chinook Seedery. We met our guy Mark from Chinook Seedery. He's in town right now. Was great meeting him. It's always cool when like we can tell you guys with 100% certainty that when you support this company, you're supporting someone who's already a part of our community.
Yep.
And I think that's easily my favorite thing about Chinook Seedery, other than the great seeds, is that owned by Buff fans. And I think we're gonna go play golf with him soon. So if you're thinking of getting some seeds from Chinook, you absolutely should support a fellow Buffs fan and head over to ChinookSeedery.com and use the code BUFFS. That's Buffs for 20% off your order. Got to try these things. We're partial to a few flavors. Hatch green chilies. I actually really like the barbecue. What's your other one?
The Parmesan pepper.
Parmesan pepper. So check them out. over at ChinookCeatery.com. That's CHINOOK.
All right. Let's get to some questions then. What do we got, chat? Think Pen Kings. That one?
Yeah.
Okay. He says, is it just me, or does this team feel a lot more connected within each other? And I've said it before, JSU vibes after the spring season. Unc, what do you think about that?
This team is absolutely more connected than this team was this time last year. As we started off the show talking about the offensive line, the way they have come together in a short amount of time, the entire team, the way it has come together in a short amount of time, with a lot of credit being to the head coach who understood that relationships were the key reason we weren't able to battle back from adversity during games. So he wanted to focus on relationships just as much as strength and conditioning. So what did he do? No phones in the cafeteria at the table. People got to talk and get to know each other. And when you hear a guy like BJ Green talked about how much that's helped him get to know the players he's playing with, it just makes results happen. But it's not just the chemistry, man, of the players. Hats off to the chemistry of the coaches. This coaching staff, I mean, they're working together like they've been together 10 years or more, particularly on that defense side of the ball, the communication that takes place in their room, the D-line with D-Lou, with Coach Dancy and Coach Sapp. Here are three guys who just met each other this year, but you think they've been working together for 5 years.
Real quick, speaking of supporting Buffs, I'm also playing golf with the good people from Saturday Neon tomorrow morning. Early enough that I'll be back for the show.
Hell yeah, our friends where Spirit came from.
Yes,
girl.
exactly. If you love Spirit.
She's missing today, though.
But
She'll
the
be
one
back.
down in the bar, the giant one down in the bar, is glowing at full glow. I'll see you guys tomorrow, though.
Unc, we didn't talk about this today, though, but Damian Lewis officially promoted to defensive line coach. Just real quick, your thoughts on that, and we can finally talk about it.
Yeah, it's just that we can finally talk about it. Probably one of the worst kept secrets in America as far as his work ethic and what he brings to the table, the juice, the energy, the know-how. You know, this is a guy who's played college ball and NFL at high levels. To have him and Sapp working together along with Dancy, there's no way this defense is not going to improve because they know how to communicate and get it done. And the players want to run through a brick wall for him. They don't want to let him down. So I'm looking forward to improved D-line play, not giving up those big runs, but more importantly, getting to the quarterback and stopping any kind of run, which is what killed us last year because people just keep the ball all damn day long because we couldn't stop anybody on the ground. So D. Lou is a hell of a coach, man. Going to be sitting down with him next week doing the deep dive so people can get to know him more. This is going to be an improved defense, and as Coach Rob Livingston tell you, it starts with the guys up front.
Love it.
I'm so excited about the potential of this defense. It could really, I mean,
You want to talk sleep? People are truly sleeping on how good this defense could be.
I know. And, you know, like, I think everyone expects the offense to go out there and light up the scoreboard, especially in week one. But if the defense were to put the clamps on North Dakota State, I think that's where people might quietly, they won't obviously do it publicly, but quietly think like, oh shit, this team might actually be legit.
Yep.
Yeah, and it goes hand in hand. One of the things we did not do well last year, RK and Jake, is play complementary football. And so if we are to go up there and hang up major points on the North Dakota State, that starts with stopping North Dakota State and giving Shador the ball as much as he can possibly have it. This thing goes hand in hand. It's same thing with Mark Vassett or Feely with their kicks. Like, we have the opportunity this year, one that we didn't do last year well in any game, even the games we won, was play complementary football where the special teams, defense, and offense all put each other in the best position to succeed.
5280 Ivan asks, for you, Unc, give us a name we don't know or are sleeping on right now that will surprise us week one or in the 2024 season.
I think I'll go with one of the running backs. We've discussed them in that room. I don't think there's been a room on this roster that in this calendar year has gone through so much. You went from this class that everybody, not class as in they're graduating, but this group of people, in January and February that everybody's excited about. When guys started transferring out, the sky was falling. what is Coach Prime doing? What the hell is wrong with Coach Flea? To now we got a running back room in less than 6 months of that, or even 90 days of that, that everybody can be proud of, and it's full of contributors. And so I think it's going to be one of the RBs that's going to have a breakout situation, and it's going to really turn some heads because there's going to be opportunity for each one of them going into this camp to be that main guy. But I still do believe, because they're different body sizes and their running styles, that it's going to be running back by committee to some form of degree based on down and distance and what kind of game we're playing.
Do you have any idea when or how we're going to find out about the new uniforms?
I'd imagine it's going to get leaked again midway through camp. There's going to be a camera with Smitty or a camera in Coach Prime's office, and somebody's going to look on the couch and zoom in and capture it. They do already exist. They are known, to some degree inside the building. So it's probably going to be a week before the game before they're officially shown. But I think way before that, you'll still end up seeing them.
This is such a great advertisement for Unk's channel. He's essentially saying, like, I might accidentally pan across the equipment room, so I guess you just have to watch every single one of my videos to see if you can catch a glimpse.
Right.
And shout out to the people that do it, because let me say this, it is unintentional. Sometimes Coach Prime will call you in the office, whether it's me, Bucky, or Darius, all three of our channels, and say, I need you to film something. And he's not quick or even concerned about moving something in the background because he needs this film right now. And then next thing you know, somebody zoomed in. It's like, hey, man, I see the new helmets. It's like, well, I can't confirm or deny, but you saw what you saw.
Have you seen them?
I have seen them in mock-up on Smitty's screen.
Can you give us one word to describe them?
Fire.
All right. There we go.
And then I'll add this in. This is more than one word. We are not Oregon. Phil Knight is not an alum of CU. But I will tell you that even if you counted a 12-week schedule or a 17-week schedule going all the way, we don't have to wear the same thing twice.
If the uniforms were an animal and it can't be a buffalo, what animal would they be?
A T-Rex.
Okay, all right.
Hell yeah, that's
ferocious.
Lit. That's lit.
Just don't throw it a pass. Those short arms could.
They are nice, man. The dynamic of it is also just Coach Prime's mood, because as y'all know, these tops and bottoms and patches and whether a face mask is gold or black or white, all that stuff is interchangeable. And so Coach Prime on a week-to-week basis will lay it out on this floor with Smitty, and just based on his vibe of practice that week, that's what we're going with. But again, I can tell you, man, like there are some combinations that when you just hit enter and scramble on it, it's going to be nice. It's going to be a nice look. It's going to be a nice look.
Hell yeah.
Next question from Jay. For you, Unc, what do we as fans have to do to make Coach Prime our Bear Bryant or Joe Paterno, not lose him to the SEC? Hashtag Coach Prime never leave.
I say business as usual. Keep doing what you're doing. Coach Prime will tell you that as much as he moved around in his professional careers, it was never like his demand to leave. Starting with Atlanta, he didn't just wind up in San Francisco. Atlanta didn't do anything, to keep him because they just conceded to, well, we can't afford him. He's going to want to play in a bigger market, so we're not even going to try. Colorado is blessed to have Coach Prime, and Coach Prime loves being in Colorado. And that's not just the institution or Boulder. He loves the state, the outdoors, the environment, the people. Like, he's having a great time. When the same thing happened similarly at Jackson State, he left earlier than he had planned on leaving because Jackson State did not do a lot to keep him. By the time Rick George offered Coach Prime a contract to come to Colorado, Jackson State at that point didn't even have an extension on the table. And this was a coach who had won 2 back-to-back conference championships undefeated while doing so. So I think Colorado is poised to have Coach Prime around a while. But it's one of those things that you never want to just take a relationship for granted, and you want to continue to invest in it and make sure you're maximizing his ability. And that all starts with communication. And I think Rick George and Coach Prime have an excellent relationship where they communicate open and honestly about things. And Coach Prime is determined to win a championship, national championship at Colorado before anything like that even comes up.
Love it. Travis asked, do you think Coach Prime will hand out the number 1 jersey again this year?
I don't know, man. It's kind of got a little jinx on it now, huh? And he was
No,
never
no.
he was never big on that in general. He one was always a number he used to just kind of hold back and never give out anyway. And then he gave it out and saw how that ended. So I'm not sure, man. I don't know if there'll be a number 1.
Well, if he wanted it, Travis would be number 1. He would have been number 1 the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Travis loves that inverted 21 though.
Yep.
For sure. And he kind of is, like, with his kind of the way he leans a little towards offense. It's like he kind of is the inverse of 21.
Yep.
I really hope LeJounte wears number 1.
Yep.
I think he will remove the stain, if you will.
Yeah, I love the way you worded that, and I will say this as about the player. He is the caliber of player who could go to Coach Prime and request it, and it would be entertained. There's some people that you can't go to Coach Prime and entertain something like that. There've just been, in the past where Coach Prime has said, "Hey, I don't do anything with these numbers. That's not the way I manage." And so you got to be that guy to be that guy, and I think Wester is that guy.
Amen.
Demetrius asks, Jake or RK, how are the refs in the Big 12? Teams pace or clock watchers / mediocre pace? Speed offense needs a quick ball placement. The Big 12 is going to be used to the up-tempo type of stuff. I mean, Baylor, Texas Tech, a lot of teams like that. Before they left Oklahoma, Texas, they kept the pace up. So I don't think they have the negative connotation that the Pac-12 refs had. So I'm hesitant to say that it's going to be an improvement, but they're used to what the Big 12 brings in terms of style of play.
Yep.
Demetrius, let me tell you this, brother. A year ago, Jake and RK tried to tell me how horrible the Pac-12 official was going to be, and I said there's no way they're worse than the SWAC. And probably by week 4, I just had to tip my hat to them and tell them they're spot damn on. So I would trust anything that comes out of their mouths about the officials in the Big 12 because they were spot on to me a year ago.
Speaking of tipping your hat, is that a Texas Rangers hat?
It is not a Texas Ranger hat. It is actually a Tougaloo baseball cap. Tougaloo is a HBCU here in Jackson, Mississippi. The head coach of Tougaloo is a good friend of mine, Earl Sanders, who played baseball at Jackson State and was drafted in the first round to the Toronto Blue Jays. So I do a lot to support Tougaloo baseball, and every now and then, I just rock my T cap for Tougaloo.
Love it.
That's actually sick. I'm glad I asked.
All right. We do have a super chat to get to. We'll do one last question. Rob DeMann asks, RK / Neely, what position battles are you most excited for to see in fall camp?
Go ahead, Unc.
D-line. When RK mentioned the guys on the O-line, I totally agree with his assessment. From one end to the other, I think those are the front runners of that 5. I sit here right now, and this is a good problem. It's because of depth, not because of lack of. I don't know, who will be across the board bringing it on defense. So I'm interested to see that battle and how that shakes out, particularly with a guy like Warren Sapp and D. Lou being the ones who make that decision. How do they see this play out?
That's a great answer. Just to be different, I'll say running back. I think it's just such an interesting room, and obviously, like you mentioned earlier, they're going to rotate a lot, but I want to see if someone can emerge. It was something we were kind of hoping for and looking for last year during camp, and obviously we really wanted it to be Alto, and then Alto was never quite healthy during camp, and obviously never quite healthy during the season. So we just kind of sat there waiting, watching, wishing. Whereas this year, I'm kind of hoping that halfway through camp, we're saying Dallin Hayden looks like that guy.
Right.
And it's going to be hard for those other guys to take touches away from him. Or it could be anyone, Micah, But I just want to hear, this is the solidified number 1, and the other guys are battling for touches behind him.
All right. We got to get out of here on this. East Coast Kev again with the super chat. Thank you, man. The CFP championship game will be played in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Can you guys imagine Prime back to the stadium where it all started for him? Didn't play in the stadium, but the same city, yes. that'd be lit.
Yeah, I've seen it happen in college football 25. It's a beautiful thing, except for Coach Prime wasn't there. It was Coach RK.
Man.
But yeah, it's I thought about that when I saw that was in Atlanta.
Tell us.
We all know that Coach Prime has a lot of love for Atlanta. That's where it all started. And so, interesting fun fact. Georgia Tech was in that running before Coach Prime decided on Colorado. So
There you go.
that lets you know how much he values being in Boulder, Colorado, when he chose that over Atlanta, Georgia.
Let me once we're off air, I want to tell you a funny story, Unk. So don't hang up. Is that all we got?
Yeah, Unc, what do you got coming on the pregame show? When are you going to be back?
I get back Saturday morning. I saw a couple of things in the chat. We got a team meeting on Sunday morning, so that's the 28th. And then the first day of practice is Monday the 29th, and you got 25 practices that you can get in before the first game. And so, of course, the three of us will be, joined at the hip pretty much all of August and then all season long. I'm just looking forward to getting there Saturday, man. I got a pretty early flight, so I'm not going to mess around and miss nothing. But it is football time in America.
Let's go. Cannot wait.
Can't wait to welcome you home.
Yes, sir. All right, man. We'll see you very soon, and talk to you here in a second. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.
Go Bulls!
We all silly like the mayor.